I got an email today. It said, "Dear David, I watched your video on the giants of Genesis 6, and for a long time I agreed with you, but this note in my study Bible seems to prove the common teaching. Thanks." And this is the page he showed me. At Genesis 6:2 it says, "The identity of these sons of God has been a matter of much discussion, but the obvious meaning is that they were angelic beings." Then he says, this was the uniform interpretation of the ancient Jews, who translated the phrase as angels of God in their Septuagint translation of the Old Testament. Next he says, the apocryphal books of Enoch elaborate this interpretation. So I have 4 questions. 1, is the obvious meaning that they were angelic beings? 2, was this the uniform interpretation of the ancient Jews? 3, did they translate sons of God as angels of God in the Septuagint? And 4, what about the apocryphal books and this part of the story of Genesis 6? I am so excited to take these apart right in plain sight, right in front of you. Are you ready? Hi, I'm David Daniels from Chick Publications. The books that deal with this are often small print or hard to read, so I blew them up so we can show them to you. Let's take the Septuagint question first. What's in the Septuagint? If you've watched my Septuagint series, you know there is no evidence for a BC Septuagint, and the earliest it might have been put together, at least partly, is shortly before Philo the Alexandrian Jew died in 50 AD. But from 120 to 200 AD, there were 3 men who made the Old Testament Greek translations. And because Origen, from about 230 to 250 AD, made the Hexapla, we can see what they said, as well as Origen's own notes. Take a look. There. This is Genesis 6:2 in Origen's Hexapla. This is a blow-up of 6:2. Now, note first that in Latin it says the sons of God are Sethites, and the daughters of men are Cainites. Origen didn't write that. It's in Latin. But note that it's not a new teaching either. Look at Aquila, 120 to 130. Aquila says sons, huioi. Look at Symmachus, 175 to 200. He says sons too, huioi. Look at Theodotion, again 175 to 200. He says sons, huioi, like the rest. Then there is a Latin note that says another example, alia exempla, is hoi angeloi, the angels. But those words are Latin, not Greek, so they were not written by Origen. So let's look at a footnote for this in my copy of Origen's Hexapla. Okay? Right down here, it says that angels of God is in the margin of the Syrian Hexapla, 600s AD. And it's in certain copies, according to Cyril of Alexandria, in the 400s AD. And Procopius writes that apostates wrote these words. He was around 400s, 500s AD. So the Septuagint doesn't say angels of God. And look, even the Hebrew, according to Origen, let me bring it back up. Even the Hebrew says B'nai HaElohim, sons of God. But wait, Alexandrinus says angels of God. Look at this footnote to the 2006 Septuaginta, blown up, right down here. Now the main text says, huioi tu Theo, sons of God. And the footnote says, the majority of manuscripts say sons, huioi as well. But then it says, angeloi, capital A, raised R. That means Alexandrinus says angeloi, angels. So, is that the case? Not exactly. You see, that raised R means rescriptor. Here's the definition right out of the Septuaginta itself. Okay? Rescriptor, that is, one who, in his correction, has so completely set aside the original text that it is no longer recognizable. You want to see it for yourself? Here is Genesis 5:2 to 6:4 in Alexandrinus. So a rescriptor literally is a person who erases everything that's there, so you can't recognize it, and then writes on top of it. And that's where you got the angeloi. Watch. This is the full page. This is Genesis 5 verse 2 to 6:4a in Alexandrinus. Now let me show you the part that matters. Genesis 6, 1 to 2. It took a while, but I actually transcribed this. It's kind of hard to read. You see that? Yeah. Right here is the text, but I'll make it easier to read right here. Okay? So it says, and it came to pass when the men, there's that where it condenses the two together with a little line, anthropoi, men. When men began to become many, multiply, on the earth, and daughters were born, that's all connected, to them, it says right here, the angels of God, seeing that the daughters of men were good or fair or beautiful, took to themselves wives from all whom they chose. Now, did you see this gray area with a line through it? That's in the text right here. See that? Do you see how broken up the words are? And when I write them out, you see how long the words are compared to the other lines. Someone erased the original words on the line, then rewrote it with angeloi, angels, and then squeezed all the letters in to fit. So what would have fit the line? Huioi, sons. So not even Alexandrinus actually has angels of God in Genesis 6:2. It was most likely what almost every other text, everywhere in Greek and Hebrew, says. Sons of God. So, sons looks like the uniform interpretation, not angels. So, what about Enoch? The Eighth Sefer has both Enoch and Jasher. So let's look and see what they say caused the flood. Let me open up to Enoch, chapter 7, verses 1 to 2, and 10 to 11. Here. It happened after the sons of men had multiplied in those days, that daughters were born to them, elegant and beautiful. And when the watchers, the sons of heaven, beheld them, they became enamored of them, saying to each other, come, let us select for ourselves women from the progeny of men, and let us beget children. Then it lists all the angelic watcher chiefs by name, and the leaders stood on Mount Hermon. And then it says down here, then they took women, I'm skipping some stuff, teaching them sorcery. Verse 11, and the women conceiving brought forth giants, and they bore to them 3 races first, the great giants. The giants brought forth the Nephilim, and the Nephilim brought forth the Eliud, and they existed, increasing in power according to their greatness. So, finally we see where the story comes from. But what about the same timeline in Jasher? Jasher 4, 17 to 19, right here. Just parts, okay? It says, "And every man made unto himself an Elohim," right here, God, an idol basically, "and they robbed and plundered, and the earth was filled with violence," verse 18, "and their judges and rulers went to the daughters of men, and took their women by force from their men according to their choice, and taught the mixture of one animal species with another. And Elohim saw the whole earth, and it was corrupt. And Yahweh said, I will blot out man that I created from the face of the earth, for I repent that I made him." Wait a minute. These are both included in this Bible Sefer thing, this Bible-y type book thing. But they contradict right here. Were they angels or human judges? They can't be both. Both go into great detail and both contradict each other. I don't trust Enoch or Jasher. I think someone got the bright idea to expand upon Genesis and just let his imagination run wild. And the best way to disguise it was to give it the name of someone great, like Enoch, or a book that's mentioned twice in passing but no one has one, like Jasher. So what does that leave? 1, it was not the uniform interpretation of ancient Jews that the sons of God were angels. 2, the Septuagint did not translate sons of God as angels of God. The only place that seems to have Alexandrinus was deliberately erased and rewritten. It was not original. So the obvious meaning was not that they were angelic beings. They were sons of God, not described as angelic beings. And 4, Enoch does say angels and makes up a detailed fantasy, complete with conversations and science being taught by the angels along with sorcery, etc. But Jasher, supposedly just as ancient, merely says the people were corrupt, made idols, and their judges grabbed men's daughters and married them. No mention of Nephilim or angels. Not even apocryphal or pseudepigraphal books agree about the reason for the flood. So I'm just going to stick with what I know. I know God promised to preserve his words. And I know God kept his promise and preserved them each generation to the present. I know I can trust my King James Bible, which came straight from that line, from Hebrew and Greek, and ultimately to English by the same God who kept his promise to preserve his words. I'm going to stick to what I said in the vlog, Nephilim and Sons of God. Who are they? You can look it up. Because I don't need outside, uninspired revelation to look for the simple patterns in God's words. All I need is trust in God and to prayerfully read the text carefully. That way, I don't have to say something that God never said. I can stick close to his words and not let some pagan or uninspired writer act like God wouldn't tell me the whole story, so I have to listen to him instead. The King James is my authority. What's yours? God bless you and have a wonderful day.